All right, guys, now we're going to continue simplifying expressions, but we're going to introduce two new properties. So we have the multiplication property of 0, which means that any number times 0 is going to be 0. And then we also have the multiplication property of 1, which is if you multiply any number by 1, it is going to continue to have the same value. So 4 times 1 is 4, 5 times 1 is 5, so on and so forth. So I'm going to just take you through step by step. Make sure you're taking notes too. So the first thing I'm going to do with 9 times 0 times p is I'm actually going to use the associative property of multiplication. I'm just going to put a multiplication sign here I like to say, like, associate this the like terms. So we have, we're going to associate 9 and 0, the two factors. We can group those together since those are both numbers, and that will help us out. So this will be the same as 9 times 0 times p, right? Because it doesn't matter with the associative property of multiplication, we can group them in any way and we'll have the same outcome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the multiplication property of 0 and I'm going to multiply 9 times 0, right? And we know that 9 times 0 is 0. We're going to continue to multiply that by p. Well, I'm going to do this again. I'm actually going to use this again. I'm going to shorten it. Multiplication property of 0, because no matter what number that p is, right, since we're multiplying it by 0, our answer is going to be 0, right? Because we don't have 1p or 2p or 3p. We have 0 times p. So we're going to have 0 p's, which will be 0. Again, the multiplication property of 0 means that if we multiply any number by 0, it's going to remain a 0. So now we're going to simplify this right here. So I'm going to do pretty similar steps. I won't be able to go quite as far. I'll show you what I mean by that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to group the factors. So I have 4 and 5/10 and 1 that I can group, right? So I'm going to use the associative property of multiplication, and I'm going to group 4 1/2 or 4 and 5/10 and 1. Okay, now when I do 4 1/2 times 1, I'm then going to use the multiplication property of 1, which tells me that anything multiplied by 1 remains itself. So 4 and 5/10 times 1 is going to remain 4 and 5/10. And I'm going to bring down my times r. Okay, and now I just need to rewrite. Remember, I told a lot of you guys on my Zoom, as you get older in math, we like to write the least amount of things while still holding the same value, right? So instead of writing 4 and 5/10 times r, we're going to write it in the same way, or meaning the same thing, but we're going to take away this multiplication sign, and it's just going to be 4 1/2 r, 4 and 5/10 r. Because we know since there's nothing between that 4 and 5/10 and that r, that means it is multiplication. And we can't go any further than this because we don't know what r is, right? So if we knew what r is, we could go a step further, like we were able to in this problem, since we had 0 times p and we knew it would be 0. But since we don't know what r is, and we only know the 4 1/2 or 4 and 5/10, then this is as far as we can go.